Hello, everyone. This is Julie from Patchworks, and I'm here in my sewing room tonight to talk about another session of the butterfly quilt. So we've already made a couple of the units, and we talked about some of our blocks here. So let me just show you some of the stuff we've already done. We did the intersection blocks. I sewed one for you. And then last week we worked on, oh goodness, what did we call it? We have it as the chunky cross. So the chunky cross are these cute little blocks, and we had 10 of them, and we stitched all of them while we were together. That was a lot of fun. And it actually went pretty quick. Today, what we're going to be doing is that we're going to be talking about the third block, which is very similar to this one, but a little bit different. It is called the floating cross. So I have an overhead camera that I have set up, and we'll look at some fabric selection options and what we are going to work with. I'll show you the original, and then we can talk about if we want to tweak it or not. If you are tuning in, make sure to say hello and let us know how you're going on this project. I'm so glad that you're here with us today on the 11th of October for the third session of the butterfly quilt. Hi, Cynthia. Thanks for joining us tonight. So we're going to be working on the floating cross, and let me show you where those pieces are going to be. So the pieces that we're going to be working on today, let me get that bottom third little note away so that we can see everything. There we go. All right. So we are going to be making this one, this one, this one, and there's one more, this one right here. So last week we made these guys here, so you can see how it's a little bit bigger, but a similar shape. The pattern calls for blocks 1 and 2 to be a combination of carnelian, which is a solid, and snapdragon. So you're going to have one block where our snapdragon is in the center, and then the second block where the snapdragon is the exterior. Block number 3 combination is going to be the begonia and the amber. And then block number 4 is going to be the topaz and the delphinium. Ooh, let me make sure that I get my little comments coming back so that I can see if anybody has any questions along the way. Okay, so the blue, I love that combination right here. I'm not going to make any changes. And look, it even matches the mat. Ooh, how fun and exciting is that? Now, last week, with the choice of these fabrics, we decided to go with a piece from Daydreamer instead of the mineral, okay? Chose from here. And I had talked about that I thought it might be fun to work with the small dot. Let me see, do I have that dot here? I thought I grabbed it. Oh, here it is. So the tiny dots from the Tiny Dots and Tiny Stripes, see, it's a very, very similar color here. And so I thought it might be fun to play with that. So this time what I think we should do is I think we should go with the mineral, and then I'm going to swap out the tiny dots. Hi, Mary. Thanks so much for joining in. For the first combination where we're going to be using the solid and the snapdragon here, this solid is just so beautiful. One of the things that I was thinking about, and I don't know how crazy it would be, is that the Queen of Hearts here has those very vibrant yellows here. I mean, like it's exact same color. It's so, so gorgeous, so, so fun. So I thought, I don't know, it might be crazy, but for the one that it's the center, would it make sense to somehow use the queen? So what we'll do is that we'll cut out the blue first, okay? And then we'll work backwards. Hi, Cheryl. Thanks for tuning in tonight. Okay, so I can't tell you the exact cutting instructions, right? Because this is a for purchase pattern. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut this out, and then we can stitch a little bit. Does that sound fun? Yeah, it sounds fun. Hi, Renee. All right, let me flip this over and let's see if I'm smart enough to be able to still figure out how to look at the pattern while I'm talking to you. Let's see here. I think that works pretty well. Okay, so fabric one. Fabric one is the one on the outside. Is that what we're doing? The one on the outside? The one on the outside is this one, right? I believe so. I should have two pictures here. Okay, so this is my outside and this is my inside, just triple, quadruple checking. Yes, outside, inside. All right. Hi, Fran. So for my number one here, I'm going to cut, and we need to make two of each one of these. I pressed my fabric already and I have it folded in half. Let me just make some room here. Oh goodness, I'm just all crouched. Make sure I don't go over my cord. That would be a bad thing, right? All right, so let's see here. I'm going to make my straight cut. So I like to line up my ruler here, that perpendicular, and gonna make my straight cut. And now I'm going to turn my fabric around. I'm going to cut a strip here. I'm actually going to cut two strips. All right, so we're going to actually cut two strips. So we're going to double it up, cut my double. And I think there was a few of you who wanted me to go ahead and have a ruler class. So we're trying to figure out when we can make that happen. Because I really, really, really love the rulers that we produce. And I think you would too. You just need to know how it is, how we use them. Hi, Margaret. Thanks for tuning in. And, oh, Cynthia, when I press my seams, do I shorten my stitch length? No, I do not. But the special precaution I do take is that if I am if I'm going to have it quilted and have my quilt, if my quilt doesn't have a border, I make sure that I stay stitch everything. Okay, does that make sense? All right, so, and I need to make two blocks of each of the combinations. So that was my first block, and this is my second block. I'm super excited that we're getting into quilting season here. Hi, Roxanne. Thanks for tuning in tonight. All right, we got that. And then what am I doing here? I am doing 2 and 1. Okay. So we're going to fold this guy in half here. I probably have a straight edge there, but we don't want to trust it, right? Because I've moved everything around. All right, so let's see if I can do it the way that Lisa does it. So Lisa lines up her ruler right here on the edge here with her perpendicular. Okay, oops, you can't see that. Okay, she lines up her perpendicular here. And then we butt up this ruler, take this guy away, and make our straight cut. Ah, I shifted. All right, so I didn't want my head to get in the way. Do it one more time. Got to make sure my head doesn't get in the way. All right. So I'm going to make another cut. And I only need to cut one strip because we're not cutting that many pieces. But these are teeny tiny blocks again, so that's where it could be fun to do some fussy cutting on those pieces. All right, so make my straight cut again. We're going to do it where we line up here. Cut that away. Put that in the little trash bucket. And then I'm going to look at my instructions here, and I need something like this. 2 of those. And a longer piece. Okay, so we cut for one color so that we didn't confuse everybody. I know that I've been a little crazy with some of my overambitious cutting. So I'm going to line this up for you so that we can see what it looks like. And then before we start piecing this one, what we want to do is we're going to just take a moment and talk about if we are going to make a fabric substitution for the other all right, so see how that's going to go together here? Really nice subtle block. Da-da-da. Beautiful. Okay, so since we see that this piece here, our biggest piece, I was talking about cutting on the queen. Now, I know a lot of you like more subtle blendy fabric, but the question is, would it be fun and exciting to do something crazy? And I think it could be fun. So what we might do is put her in. I think that could be fun. Or would we go like this and then do it where we shift it the other way? Oh, I think that could be a good. So the block we're having that this strip here is the wide part, but I think that so that we don't seam her face, I think it might be fun to go like this. And then, so just position that square that way. Ooh, I'm excited. All right, so now I'm being crazy. Let us go over to the sewing machine and we'll just make one of these blocks. Hi, Linda. And then that way, for those of you that need to scoot, you can just see how one of these blocks is made. So I don't have a zoom on our sewing machine today. We'll have to see how this works, where you're just kind of looking at a little bit farther away look. I think it should be fine, but let me know your feedback on that. All right, so let's switch out our cameras. All right. So We're going to sew here. So I'm going to sew these pieces together. Okay. I'm going to make them for the top and bottom for both blocks. So I'm just going to chain piece them together. Now remember, when I'm chain piecing, I like to have my leader and ender so that I always have something in the machine. I didn't put anything in the machine to begin with. I should always leave something, right? So I'm just going to take a little scrap of fabric. It's always good to have a little scrap bucket around just so you can do that. And there we go. For these little pieces, I just align them with my fingers and I don't worry about pinning them. I pre-starched all of my fabric. For those of you who like to pre-starch, go ahead and do that. And if you don't like to pre-starch, well, that is just fine. I know there's a lot of people who don't like to pre-starch. And one of the reasons why I pre-starch, not only for the body of the fabric, but also because it does test color fastness as well as shrinkage if you are in a situation like you're making samples and maybe you are not pre-washing that fabric. So I'm not saying never pre-wash your fabric. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying that sometimes starch helps with that shortcut. And then for a lot of you who pre-wash, you like to add that starch back in for a little bit of body. We talked a little bit about the starching process, I think last week. All right, so I sewed the top and bottom sections for both there. So what I'm going to do now is for this center section, I have the small pieces on the big bar. So I'm going to attach one side to both. Here we go. And for those of you that really like to work a puzzle in your head, feel free to cut for all of 4 of your color combinations. And then you can just chain stitch all of your units together and mix and match and play along. Sometimes that can be a little confusing, and also because I want to make sure that I'm presenting the correct information and don't have to do any unsewing while I'm talking to you, I made sure that I just was working on one color combination right now. So I still haven't gotten my little chain block separator and happen to use a giant pair of scissors. I'm going to quick press these so that I can attach my corners on them. All right. So what I'm going to do is we're just going to hop back over there and I'll put my little mini ironing mat up so that we can see that. So I have a bigger ironing board behind me, but just so that I can be with you because, well, I don't have cameras everywhere that can just follow me. Frank, I don't know why he doesn't just follow me around all day. I sent him away for a couple days to see if he can catch any final fall fish, right? Doesn't that sound like a good plan? Sounds like a great plan to me. All right, I dropped one of those, so let's pick it up. All right. And I have my Olicio back. Yay. Hi, Nancy. Thanks for tuning in tonight. Okay, so once again, I like to press open. So what do? I open it with my fingers first, and I just run my thumbnail first. So actually, I would be able to sew, but I like to have that extra crisp press on it. I press it down. So I place it down, seam side down, and then I just give it a little bit of heat. Okay. So I don't try to run my iron on the opposite side. Okay. So I go like this, put it down, go like that. Let's do it again. Ta-da! So I'm so excited. I'm getting ready to go at the end of the month to Houston for Quilt Market. Haven't been to a quilt market since October of 2019. So this is super, super, super exciting that we are having a quilt market. Oops, underneath the cord. All right. So it's a little different this time around that we have that we're going to be seeing most of the fabric before I even get there. But that's all right. And one of the great things about it, though, is that I'll still be able to see some really great inspiration. All right. So the other thing I want to share, remember we were talking a couple times ago about the 1/4 inch seam and how important it is because, we have different units that we're putting together. And one really great thing with this particular unit is that you are going to make sure that your seam is working here because this square is the same size as this. So I'm going to put my right sides together, and if edges, if something doesn't line up, now would be a good chance to good time to evaluate if your seam allowance or cutting needs any attention. And if you do, I always invite you to come on in or send me a message, send me an email because I'd be more than happy to help you along the way. So I just love it when something gives you the opportunity to line it up early on in a block. All right. And I know most of you who are watching, you are masters of your 1/4 inch seam. You just never know who's going to tune in. And so I want to make sure that we can share little little nuggets along the way. Little nuggets. All right, one more here of this square, and then I'm going to trim off what's behind. And let's see here, right? Because we're making 2 of these blocks at the same time. So now I grabbed off my rectangle, my midsection of that block. Ta-da. And I'm going to put the other rectangle on, if I can find it. Here it is. I'm going to put the rectangle on the other side. And then I bet you know what we're going to do. Does anyone want to guess? We are going to be stitching that other square on the other side of that um, little rail. Is it a rail? If it's a strip of 2, do you call it a rail? I don't know. All right. Then I'm going to grab these guys behind. So I have these 4. I don't have to separate them, but I will. It makes it a little bit easier. Sometimes when you leave them connected, things can twist a little bit. So I'm going to open this and then just put the square on the other side. So while I am talking about new things and quilt markets and all sorts of great things, what I want to ask you is that if you see things on social media or from designers, that you think we need to look at, please let me know. And also, just because things are being shown at this instant, know that we're all going through and getting to see them. And the way that the vendors and designers are working right now is that instead of showing it to us first and then to you, they're showing it to you so that you can ask us. And so don't panic. We have lots of time to make sure that we can get stuff in for next year, which is super exciting. And it's really fun to be able to have, you know, many hundreds of extra eyes out there to help us figure out what the best things are for next season. All right, so I have our top row, our middle row, and our bottom row. So let's run a little piece of fabric through. I could cut it, but then I'm going to have to run this other thing through. So let's just go like this. Doo-doo-doo. And then we'll hop back over to our pressing board so that we can press these open and then sew some rows together. Hi, Janet. Thanks for tuning in. So for all of you who watch on Facebook only, but you do have a YouTube, or even if you're watching on YouTube but aren't subscribed, do us a favor and subscribe to our channel. We are like 50 people away from having 1,000 subscribers. Isn't that exciting? All right, so this is the top or the bottom. So once again, before I press, I'm just going to run my thumb on both sides. There's other ways to do this. This is just how I like to do it. Do one side first and then I'll do the other. I was trying to be just the master of efficiency. Isn't that cute? So cute. All right, so that's the top. Middle. Now, if you press to one side, as most traditional quilters do, that is completely acceptable because, well, that's how we all learn to quilt, right? So I had adopted somewhere along the way in the early 2000s, pressing open, and I was a rebel. I was doing it before other people were, and I just found that a lot of times I got a little bit less bulk. And the reason why it's okay these days to do it is because when we have things machine quilted, they're quilted to death and they're not going anywhere. If you are stitching, if you're pressing open, you never stitch in the ditch because it would perforate your stitching. So just the materials and techniques that we're using these days are much different than what our predecessors were using, or maybe even the way that we were quilting when we started quilting, you know? And does this mean that I never, ever, ever press things to one side? Of course, there are times that I press things to one side. And oftentimes, even when I'm pressing a whole section of a quilt together, like if I have two halves, then I will press to one side just because it can be a little challenging to do this separating of the center of especially a large bed size quilt. All right. Dun, dun, dun. So I have my three parts. So what we're going to do is we're going to sew 1, 2, 3. Okay, picking my pieces up, and we're going to hop back over to the sewing machine. All right. So I have my middle and my lower. I don't have any seams that I need to intersect. I need to make sure that my ends are aligned. It probably would be a good idea if you needed to pin along the way. We're only at 6.5 inches. So oftentimes with a block that's 6.5 inches without any seam intersections, I don't worry about pinning. When I get larger than 6.5 inches, then I absolutely pin. But when it's still kind of bite-sized like this, a lot of times I don't. So since we're just looking at real world situation, I'm not going to pin right now. I'm not going to pretend to do something that I don't do in real life. Of course, best practices are to pin everything. But sometimes when I'm working with small pieces, I just find that I'm able to get away without doing that. Okay, so, and because these are, I mean, kind of directional here, you want to make sure to look at where your delphiniums are going. You don't want to sew it like this because then you'll be unstitching. So it's like that, press it together. So this quilt along, even if you haven't started, you know, these are relatively simple bite-size blocks. There is some technique with curved piecing that's going to come up. And then some of the challenge a little bit later is going to be piecing together the different size blocks for the irregular sampler. But, you know, I just kind of love this as an in-between kind of project because you can just play and have fun. And, you know, take the opportunity, especially if you've been collecting fabric for whatever style that you're making this. I know that there's one of our customers is making these in batiks. Oh my goodness, I can't wait to see some of her show and tell because it will be stunning, stunning. And I've seen some put together with Cave. So just a lot of really great opportunities for playing with color, playing with collections. And Heidi's going to be making more kits because so many of you have decided to jump on the bandwagon, which is great. I have gotten requests to put together a couple kits without any background because you already have considerable background. So I would be more than happy to hook you up with that. We'll just take the price of that background out of the kit. The book isn't included in the price of the kit, so you don't have to worry about that, whether you own the book or not. And the books are back in stock. For one of you that ordered over the weekend, it just went out in the mail today. So otherwise, everyone should have their butterfly book. All right, pop this little guy through. Dun, dun, dun. Dun, dun, dun. Super, super cute. So this is the floating cross block. I'm going to continue working on the other blocks. So we're going to be making a total of 6 more blocks. For anyone who has to hop off, I just want to make sure that you all could see how fun and easy this went together. And we looked at the color combinations early on. I would love to be able to have as many of you hang out with me as possible while I finish my work. Thank you to everybody who's been tuning in today. I'm going back over to the ironing board, and then I'm also going to cut some stuff. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to ask. I can see the comment screen from my ironing board here. These are just so cute. Hi, Sharon. Thanks for tuning in today. So yes, Linda, we only have 8 blocks to make today. So we have 2 blocks each of 4 different combinations. but there really are only 3 different combinations of fabric, which is super fun. Oh, hi, Ginny. Oh, thanks, Nancy, for tuning in. We'll see you on Thursday for Must Sew TV. Go Yankees. Did anyone get to enjoy the weather outside today? One of our last warm days of the year. Although it was really, really windy. Felt like it was going to blow me away. Oh, look. Yay! You know, make sure you clap for yourself even when you are working on stuff because, got to celebrate the small accomplishments, right? I'm going to put the iron over on the ironing board and I'm going to make sure that I untangle it from my little microphone here. Put it over there. And then I'm going to move this and then we'll cut our next block. I know Linda's excited that there's only 8 blocks to make. Oh, Kathy had commented that I press with my right side out rather than the other side. And so, there are many ways to do the same thing. I just found the most success. And, I also don't like to burn my fingers. And so it can be a little challenging with your fingers if you press this way and try to eke the iron along the way, right? So that's how I like to do that. Oh, Cynthia, you had lunch outside. Fun. Okay, let's see here. We're going to, so for this one combination, I'm going to go here and here rather than here and here. Okay, I want to experiment with the small dot. I know it's a slightly different shade of orange, but I think it might be fun to have that. So I am going to line this up. I'm going to make my straight cut on this side and flip it around since I had shifted on the other one and I don't have that much extra fabric here. So cut one strip. Toss that aside. Now remember, I'm working with not necessarily a kit, but with extra fabric that I just happen to have from my Tula Pink collection. So I may be working with different size pieces than what you have in the kit. This is my outside, so it's my fabric 1, if you are following along in the cutting instructions. And we're going to cut for 2 blocks right away. So I probably could have left it stacked because I have to cut for 2. So that was just for 1 block there. Oops, I shifted this here. All right, so I shifted everything. So I am going to go ahead and get a new straight. Rotate that around. Do you like the small dots, Fran? So has anyone seen the previews of the new Everglow that Tula has released for late spring of next year with those neons? Oh my goodness. Such a bright addition to her true colors. Now, the cool thing that I saw with some of her preview videos is that it didn't look like she was getting rid of any of her True Color basics. So that is super, super exciting. And what I would like to share about that as well is that for those of you that don't know, we do stock all of Tula's reorderables all of the time. So we might be out of a fabric from now every now and again, but we do restock them, including her solids. So that is just exciting that we'll be able to add neons to that selection. So she's going to need more than that wall that we have for her already. Oh my goodness. And has anyone seen the new English paper piecing project that has been released? What do you think about that? So that's first going to start in like June. We'll be talking about that. We'll be talking about that. I'll mention it on our Thursday video, and you'll also be hearing about it in the next month and a half or so. It's so weird to start thinking about blocks of the month for next year. Okay, I'm going to cut this one a little bit longer here, and then I'm going to turn around and I am going to do a straight cut here. Okay, I felt, and it could have just been an optical illusion, that it wasn't quite right. All right, so I cut those, and so it's going to look like this. So Ginny, she approves of the small dots. Now keep in mind, at the time that Butterfly 2.0 went to publication, cut two more. I need to cut two more. When it went to publication, this was not in production yet. So potential, at the time that you announce these things, you're committing to fabrics, especially because there's so many people that want to make it just like the designer made it. But I just want you to know that you can totally make your own artistic decisions. And once again, since that's separated a little bit, I cut a little oversized and then came back for my straight cut. So that is one other way that you can go ahead and make your straight adjustments. Okay. And we'll need one more. Okay. Now we're going to go back to the sewing machine. Dun, 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 dun. I think it's time for my mocha. What do you think? Time for a mocha break. It's never too late for coffee. Never, ever. All right. So what is everyone's favorite beverage of choice when you're sewing? I really love my coffee, and so I happen to be drinking an iced mocha right now. I picked that up on my way from the store, so that I could be sewing with you all night tonight. Well, maybe not all night, but Okay. And let's just pop this down here. So we're going to go ahead and I'm just going to sew both the top and bottom little strips again, and then we'll sew the other amber mineral strips onto the outside of the big rectangles. Sometimes people ask me, if you haven't heard my explanation on this before, of it's more efficient to have a small iron right next to your sewing area. Why do I get up an iron? And I know that it's so easy when you're in a project to just sew for like hours on end, right? You know, you've been there. And because it's hard on your shoulders and it's hard just on just all of your body and posture, I like to be able to take periodic breaks to get up and just move around and move those legs. So that is actually why I do not set up an ironing board right next to my sewing station, even if I'm power working on something. So the only possible thing would be if I would be working on an intricate paper piecing project, then I might. But otherwise, I really do prefer to chain stitch as we're doing and then get up and move around. All right, and I should have rethought. So remember, you have to remind me for the next block that I need to sew these units first so that I can chop them and then sew them the other side after. Okay? Remind me next time. All right, so then we're going to do our little scrap little guy here so that I can go and still, before we go to the ironing board, we'll be able to attach the other side of those rectangles. And here I didn't cut them apart just because. And if they were actually going together, a lot of times I do leave them together because then they're like, oh, it doesn't make sense in this block, so I won't talk about that. I don't want to confuse you because you'd say, Julie, it doesn't work. We have no matching intersections. All right. Here we go. Separated them. I'm going to go now to the ironing board. And we'll get to practice again our pressing. And I'm going to just briefly demonstrate, in case if you didn't understand, but I'm sure you did, how I like the way that I do it versus doing it from the seam side. Okay, let's see here. All right, so if I were to press from the seam side, even if I go like this, okay, or if I don't go like that, so going like this, you know, a lot of times I see people try to separate this as they're going, and then you touch that, so that's no good. Thanks, Fran. See you on Thursday. So I go like this and like this. So for those of you just tuning in for the floating cross here, which is unit 3 in part 1 of the butterfly quilt, I have substituted the large pom-pom for the tiny dot. So you can always make the quilt your own. Ah, Kathy says, yes, lots of hot fingertips. Yikes. Great tip. And of course, there's tools that you can use to hold on, but if we can just eliminate the need for any of it, that makes life even better. Now, because of how I press like this, I also don't use steam at this point, okay? Because I don't want to burn my fingers with steam. How many of you have had that happen? So I love my steam, but when I'm working with my small piecing units, I don't love it, okay? So having applied that starch made the fabric wet, it shrunk any fabric if you hadn't pre-washed it. So then later on when I'm using steam, when I'm putting the whole quilt top together, I'm not going to have any problem. Okay, so that is another good reason to use starch if you do not pre-wash. Right, so now we're back over here and we're going to sew these guys right up. Let's see, did I line them up right? Yay! Woohoo! As I said, sometimes you just got to cheer for yourself. All right. Oh, so this is exciting. Unrelated, but very exciting. We just got in, oh goodness, a whole new rainbow selection of bias binding in the store. So I'll have to show that to you on Thursday, but it's super exciting. Did I cut too many? I guess I did. I went crazy. No, this is one side. I didn't go crazy. Sometimes if my head were not attached. Okay, so we're sewing on one side. Gonna pause. We're gonna trim 3 of the blocks off, right? And we'll sew the other side on. Then we'll grab that last block. Of course, I could use smaller scissors, but that would be no fun. No fun at all. So when I'm sewing, do you prefer to see me like this, or would you prefer to have a much closer view of what I'm doing right there? And just because you say that you want like this view doesn't mean that we'll never do this again. Because sometimes if we're working on a more difficult technique, you really need to see what's going on there. But we're just doing some basic piecing, so I didn't think it was as important. So if you have an opinion, let me know. And block number 2 going on. I think it also makes more sense on these Tuesdays here that we work on that, getting something start to finish done early so that in case if you can't hang out, that you still got the gist of what it is that we're talking about. So hopefully that works, and that's something that I'm going to do my best to continue in the upcoming weeks. I've gotten a few messages from those of you who are making this, and people were a little stressed out saying, that they feel like they're already behind. And what I want to do is I want to share with you that please, please, please don't feel like you're behind in any way, shape, or form. Truth be told, I only have one intersection block done. Don't tell. They're all cut out, but I only have that one intersection block done. So you can't possibly be behind because I don't have all my blocks to date done. So you can't be behind. We're going at our own pace. We're going to be heading into 2023 with this project. If you wanted to jump ahead and go farther, go faster, by all means, please do. But just know that we're just kind of chugging along and getting some stuff done and having fun. So thanks for the feedback. So Jean is crocheting while we're piecing and quilting here. Cynthia likes the variety of the different camera views, which is awesome. And Ginny likes both as well. So, as I said, we just want to mix it up and not have it be boring. There might be weeks that I'm able to even play around and get in a couple more camera views. Who knows? I'm pretty excited though, because for those of you who tuned in last Thursday and saw that I had a couple challenges, I'm super excited that I found some better ways to do a couple things. So hopefully it works out. We don't quite have the internet here that we have at the store, so I'm not sure what kind of lags we have here. But if there is a lag here, hopefully we won't have those lags at the store. All right. Two more. I think I had some cutting pre-done last week. So I'm feeling like we're going to be longer than we were last week, and we only have half of our blocks done. But we're still having fun. Still having fun. All right. Gonna go back. And that little like square and blocker, that little pressing board, that's just so nice. So I don't use the grid on it at all, but it's just really nice to be able to have that larger pressing surface. Having one of the cut and presses is also nice, but the thing I like about the square and blocker is that it is a bigger surface. So it's bigger than the cut and press 2, which is that larger size. And you can see I just put it over my mat. So rather than flipping my mat, I just have to be careful to not layer on top of something and then create some sort of bump or bubble. One. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to snip that back block. So that I can sew on this other side. Easy peasy. And just going to trim this and belong here. All right. These tiny dots are so cute. And you know, these tiny dots work in so many different applications. So we've been grabbing the tiny dots to work in all sorts of different, with different fabrics throughout the shop. You know, with the bright colors, they work really well with kids' quilts. Polka dots, bold graphic colors. And if you like cafe fabrics, they play very well with cafe as well. All right, we have another set done. Woo-hoo-hoo. All right, so I'm not going to bore you with pressing these. I'm going to move right ahead to cutting the third and fourth sets. How does that sound? All right, sounds good. But first, we need to have another mocha break. All right. If you insist, we must. All right, let's, oh, we need to change it up here. Okay, so we have, what do we have? We have the blue. We have the yellow. And now we are going to go to the vibrant red orange. Okay, so original combination, the carnelian and snapdragon. And I thought we should play with, because I'm going to be crazy, I want to play with Fussy Cutting the Queen just because I can. Okay, so we're going to waste a little bit of fabric, but I think that's going to be fun. All right, crazy. So for this, how am I going to do it? I'm going to work with this one first. And let's see here, I want it equidistant. So I said I thought it would be better to do my block shifted, and where did my little block go? Okay, so instead of having it be this way, I'm going to have my queen be this way so that I don't have to piece her here, okay? So I'm just sharing with you if you had something that you wanted to modify. I am eyeballing. So in this case, I'm fussy cutting. So I'm not worried necessarily about squaring traditionally. I'm going to cut a strip here to the size that I need to cut it. And so I eyeball centered. If I'm working with wanting the queen, I was centering the queen. That's how I was visually seeing it. Then I want to do the same for top and bottom because, or let's see, what do I want to do? What do I want to do? I can come here. Where do we want her? Ooh, this could be interesting. Well, we'll see what this looks like. Don't want to lose her chin. Lose her crown. Oh my goodness, decisions. I just need to make a choice. Okay, I'm going to cut off her crown. And I'm doing it like this, okay? All right, so I'm not going to have, maybe I did want the crown. Nope, we're just having it like that, right? Why not? Had to make a decision. Made a decision. All right, so now we are going to have the sides, and the sides are going to be thin little ones here. So now we're going to piece that. So she's going to go away. So we'll see how that looks. The other thing, if we wanted to properly do it, what we would do is come back in. So let's just talk about this for a second. If I wanted to properly fussy cut this, what I would actually do is come back in and see how I'm aligning this here. Okay, so I'm aligning it here, all right? And so what we actually would want to do is make sure that since the seam is going to be here, okay, are you following this? The seam is going to be here. We actually need to cut a 1/4 inch this way. So you actually would be taking 2 motifs in order to get what you would do. That made sense, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to chop it up because I think we're going to do that. Okay, so we're going to be crazy. Why not? Why not? We can. You already got the gist of what it is that we're doing. So I'm just doing some quick math in my head here. So I would need to be, I actually don't quite have it here because I'm cut off, but I might, she's cut off there. That's pretty close. All right, so this isn't exact, but we're just going for it because we're being artistic. And I need 2.5 there. So what we're going to do, it would help if I had templates here. And if I actually would have had a plan rather than just playing with it. But sometimes, you know, your greatest innovation is simply by playing, right? So I'm cutting the full size, but then what I'm doing is I'm going to come back and I'm going to trim back to the size that it needs to be, right? So 2.5. Take off 1 and 1. Yay! Okay, so I actually somehow magically ended up with the right size. Okay, so now we're going to do it to the other side as well. And let's see, I am going to have to go into this guy here. Did anybody understand at all what I was trying to do? Or was I speaking some like foreign language? Can I use the Q and the crown for the smaller blocks? Absolutely. Oh, that would be adorbs. So you absolutely could. I think that'd be great. So I am going to, let's see here. All right. going to come and I'm going to cut the whole piece off. I'm going to go a 1/4 inch. I'm going to go to a 1/4 inch. Nope, I would need to go. Seam is going to be there. So I'm going to take a 1/2 inch off from where I would go, right? Then cut the size of the strip that I would want. All right, and then I'm going to cut straight off, and then I will cut down those pieces. So it's not the most fabric efficient, but this would be how to wallpaper size, get the exact piece that you want. And it's more of it's a combination of art and science, right? So now I'm taking off equal parts from both sides. And that is going to give me a pretty good queen on both sides, in theory. All right, so, oops, did we lose us overhead? Can you see me? So we might have lost my overhead camera, it looks like. Let's go back to this way. Let's go back to this way. All right, so we'll see if that comes back. It might have gotten too hot from a camera. So, but so there are a billion different ways to fussy cut. So as I said, what the approach that I was taking there is more intuitive um, rather than mathematical per se. It would be much easier though if you were doing a whole bunch of these for you to cut the sizes that you need out from like a clear template plastic and then lay things out. And so that could be a really great thing to do. And we will actually incorporate that into, let's see, will it be? I don't think the next block makes sense with that. Let's see when we should do that. But I will make sure that we do. What I can even do is I'm actually going to leave. We'll do another cross and I'll show you what I mean with that. Okay. So I'll make the one block here and then I will come back and I'll make the second one, but we'll do it with the template so that it's a little bit easier to see. And once again, there's a bunch of different ways that you can do it. But I was thinking that if you had that template plastic, it would be much easier to visually work with. Okay. All right. So what we're going to do now is I am actually, so I'm going to leave the queen till till we can discuss both options with our template plastic of how we did it. And then let's just make the opposite one where we have, and we'll use the our snapdragon flower on the outside. We'll just make that happen that way. Sound good? All right. And for this, let's see here. I'm going to point that camera down because I think we lost our overhead. I think we lost it. Let's see. Let's see. I'm going to just try one more time to see if we can make it go on. And if we can't, then stop, go live, next. Let's see if we see us yet. Aha. Oh, technical fun. So that's interesting. It did go at about the hour and a half from when I had connected it. So that's always important to see and hear. Well, it's being a little difficult. So thank you for your patience as we figure out all these fun little details. Let's go like this. I'm just going to move this light out of the way here. And you can at least kind of see what's going on. So we're going to cut this guy and that guy. So this is going to be our outside. And for our outside, see, I just have these little scraps here that I'm going to be working with. Why not? Why not? Scraps work really well. Going to cut a strip. And that's why I have such a hard time throwing stuff out. I don't know about you. I'm getting better because, if it's not organized the right way, you never use it. But, and so that's why working with a palette like this, where you're just going to keep using the fabrics over and over and over again for different things, it makes it easier to do. All right. Okay. Cutting for one. Cutting for two. Can I eke it out? We're playing fabric chicken. Oh, yes. I love it when it works that way. Oh, you can't see it. So I had a schnibble, schnibble, schnibble left. So I got my blocks out for my guys here. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to cut my small rails here. Let's see. Oops. Don't shift the fabric. Don't shift the fabric. I might have to go into another piece. Oh no. Oh no. It's enough for one. Oh my goodness, this is killing me. This is killing me. I need like that much more fabric. So let's see. I must have a little bit somewhere. Well, good thing I have another big piece. So we'll just cut a strip. We'll just cut a strip because you know what? I betcha we're going to need more soon. Don't you think? I think we will. All right, so I'm just putting this over here. And for my straight, I'm going to line up my perpendicular, my two ruler method. I know you can't see the whole thing, but I just don't want you looking at a blank wall while I'm doing this. So okay, cut my strip, and I'm actually just going to cut from one because I just need one more little guy here. One more little guy. Okay, so I got those here. Just press this out here because a little crinkle. So for 1, for 2, for 1, for, oops. I need another one. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. I can't count today. I can't count today. All right. So I've got my parts all together, and then I'm going to cut my solid. Put those guys over there. And this is a crazy bolt end that I snagged from the store. I'm not happy with how this is cut off of the end, so I'm not going to use the full width. I'm actually going to cut. So if you ever have a strip that's like totally crazy, just cut it in half. Okay, just cut the strip in half, and then you can use the strip so that you're not having to waste fabric on both ends when you're making a straight cut, if that makes sense. All right, so you can see how off I am here because it was just a crazy bolt end and it came off the bolt. I'm going to make my straight cut. I'm going to do it off screen here just so that I make sure I do it right. And I'll cut my strip. Right, so I have my top and bottom, and then my middle. Okay, all my pieces are cut for that combo. Let me just rearrange here so we can see us again. Da da da, da da da. Whew, time for more coffee. Oh, you can't see me. I'll raise it up a little bit. Here we are. Now my head's just chopped off a little bit, but that's okay. I think I've been chopped off the whole time. So I am going to go ahead and we're going to piece this combo. And as I said, we're going to leave that fancy fussy cutting of the queen. We're going to talk about it at the beginning of the next session before we delve into our next unit, just because, well, I have stuff I want to show you. And I think it's a good teachable moment. And that's what this is all about. Because, you know, I don't know how many of you are actually making this. So being able to learn different things while we're sitting and hanging out and sewing is really valuable. And I appreciate that you're giving me the opportunity to have some good some good time to be creative and just explore different options. So thank you for that. Oh, remember I said that we were going to be sewing those rectangles on the big rectangles first? I didn't do that. That's okay. All right, and then I'm going to sew on the big rectangles. Here we go. And then I'm going to sew the other side on. So lots of fun size blocks today. All right, here we go. Now we're going to quick press it out. So I'm going to hop over to the ironing board. I'll keep talking to you while I'm over there, but we won't worry about changing that camera. I should get one of those fancy cameras that can just follow my eyes everywhere. That'd be crazy. I'm just happy that you guys can hear me. All right, so I'm hopping over to the ironing board, okay? You can look at the beautiful cup block behind me. And again, if you have any questions, you absolutely can ask them at this point. I can answer your questions here. Oh, did Heidi pop on? Hi, Heidi. Probably checking out and seeing what craziness I'm getting into tonight. Because everybody calls and asks questions about what I did. They're like, I don't know. She went rogue. Heidi's working on a super cute sample right now that we'll be showing in, oh goodness, I guess it's going to be next week. Ooh, well, maybe we'll be showing part of it. It's a big quilt that she's working on, but it's really, really cool. Really, really cool with one of our new fabric lines. Lots of awesome fabric is coming in, and we just got a new blender line from Northcott. And we restocked some Jot Dot for those of you that like the Jot Dot. Lots of fun. All right, one more seam to press here, and then I'm going to come back and sew on some squares. All right, so now we're sewing some squares onto the ends of these. We'll sew them on both sides, and then we'll give that a quick press, and then we'll put our block together. And then we'll almost have done all of our homework. Everything's lining up. Ooh, I'm doing a good job tonight. Woohoo! So while I'm piecing this, even though I have a lot of very bright fabrics in a whole spectrum of colors, I'm just using the same thread. So Tula's favorite color is that light mint, color 2835. I'm just using cream color 2000. Of course, if you had wanted to change out your threads, you absolutely can, and shop owner Julie should encourage you to do that all the time. But just for how we tight piece everything, so I have a 2.5 on my machine here. That's just the standard. So I piece with the standard stitch length of just how it comes out of the box for my piecing here. The only time that I change my stitch length for piecing would be if I'm paper piecing, because if I'm paper piecing, I'm then ripping paper off and then, well, I'm weakening that seam. So that would be why I would do that. Be careful not to cut my fabric. That'd be sad. So I'm going to sew my other sides on now, and then we'll be able to press that out and then sew our top and bottom together. Easy peasy. All right, almost, almost, almost. Two more seams, two more seams. And here we go. All right, I'm going to take that to the pressing board. Feel free to jump in, ask me anything. Dun, 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 dun. Everybody's busy sewing. That's awesome. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, two done, two to go. You can hear the up and down of the oliso. And one more to go. So exciting. So exciting. So we'll have to look ahead and see what we got going on for our next blocks too. I have a feeling that next week is going to have more pieces. This seemed to be an easy week. I made it more difficult with all my fussy cutting and stuff, but all right, so here we go. Gonna sew it together. And here we go. Oh, Jean, that's pretty cool because I can't hear what's going on. So that's really nice that you can hear me and not the sewing machine, that the sound cancellation is doing its thing. I appreciate that feedback. Yeah. I'm just lifting and lowering my presser foot because that little fabric got a little caught up. And two more. Two more, and then we get to say hooray. All right, put that on. So for those of you that are still hanging out, or Jean, especially since you're chiming in here, how was the quality of the overhead while it worked? Was it choppy or did it, because it was kind of hard for me to tell if it was choppy or not from where I was sitting. So, and you know, we're changing all our stuff and checking out things. So it's always good to know what's working, what's not working, so we can figure out and learn how to make it better. Oh, good. Thanks, Cynthia. Thanks, Mary, for letting me know. Yay. All right, now I'm going to do the cut. Oh, the satisfying machine cut. All right, so we completed 3 combinations tonight. We have our Snapdragon and Carnelian. I'm just going to grab our other combos. We have our Tiny Dot and the Amber, and then we have the Topaz and the Delphinium. Next week, we are going to have a better step out here so I can show you with how you can create your own template plastic to do your own fussy cutting on this. I think it'd be really interesting whether you're using it for this project or something else. And then we are going to delve into the log cabin. So for the log cabin, we have a large, a mini, a medium, and a small. So for the large log cabin, we're going to have just 2 blocks. So I think that it's going to make sense then. So we're just going to tackle the large log cabin next week. We're going to talk about our fussy cutting, and then we're just going to work on the large log cabin, and then we'll work on the other log cabins in future weeks. But since the log cabin section has a total of 12, 14, 30 different units, not all of them are giant, but I want to break it down into bite-sized chunks so that we're not overwhelmed, because if I said, oh, next week we're making 30 blocks, oh my goodness, you'd lose me. So I don't want to lose all of you. And I really appreciate that you tuned in to watch us. So on Thursday, we are going to be going live with Must Sew TV from the shop. We are going to be talking about our block bonanza, our toes in the sand. I'm going to give a little shout out to this, and this is super exciting. Home for the Holidays is going to start with Cherry and Chelsea tomorrow. So I'm going to do a post on that, but then I'll show you the block that we will be working on Thursday for that. And then we're also going to be sharing you the next chunk of the Noel quilt. So all sorts of really great stuff. Of course, we're also going to show you some new fabric. I'm so grateful that you tune in and spend time with us. If you need anything, you can stop in, give us a call, give us a message, or hop on our website. Thank you for your feedback. Happy quilting, and we'll see you soon.